why don't we just jump right in? We're going to start with a focus on instruction, okay? Students and instruction. So when speaking of education, people used to refer to the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. These were considered the core and foundational skills for learning. So here's the question. Are they? And why are we seeing such a decline in these skills among students today and subsequently in the workforce?
Well, because I think we've lost our focus. One of the things that as I work through education in my last years in the public world is that, we were trying to go too many different directions at the same time. And we found, at least that in my experience, when we started focusing on specifics and watching specifics, our program increased. And so as every time some new idea would come down the road, they would want to implement it. But the issue is when you, at least in education, when they would implement something, they never took anything away. So you ended up diluting your program. And so what has happened over time is our program has become diluted. Instead of focusing on the major points, the big rocks, I would say, as we would call it in our world, we were focusing on all these little things. And so what happens is we have really lost our focus in education. And I think that's the problem. And so it has moved to almost a point where we look at numbers now. We look at test scores. We look at things that really probably have importance, and I can show you how they can have importance, but we just have lost our focus. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. So just a moment ago, you talked about big rocks. What do you consider to be the most essential big rocks or those areas of learning for today's students to flourish in the world today and for the next 50 years?
Yeah, I think the thing we lose track is that we have a tendency to define things in the immediate. But when a kindergarten kid comes in to kindergarten and you start looking 13 years out, what do they need in 13 years? That's pretty hard to predict. And so you need to start looking at really what are you teaching them? So you need to start thinking about not so much, I need to teach them how to type on a computer, but I need to teach them how to think, how to look at things, how to evaluate, how to make decisions, how to go into an unknown and be able to put all the pieces together. And we have gotten to the point in education where it's about learning something, taking a test, spitting it out, and then forgetting it and moving on. It isn't about long-term change. It isn't about, and I'll use my language. It isn't about growing the individual. It isn't about growing the kid. It isn't about adding value. It's about meeting whatever the issue is at the moment, whatever the political ways might be from the state, your departments of education, or it can even be a community kind of issue. And so what's happening is we have really lost the essence of teaching kids skills that they need to be able to use in life, because education isn't anymore about information. Because if I wanted to know something, Melvin, I just can Google it.
Yeah.
We don't need that anymore. We need to get back to teaching kids, okay, you have all this stuff swarming around you. How do you think? How do you put it together? How do you discriminate between truth? What's right? What's wrong? So it's those kinds of things that have gotten lost. And so what's happening is the whole picture of education has become very cloudy.
And so, yeah, I understand exactly what you've said, and I know that maybe there's a shift away from subject matter or content matter, and you talked about really helping make sure that they learn how to think. But are there certain things, those certain basic skills, that are still absolutely essential? What are those big rocks?
Big rocks, number one, if you teach a child to read and read well, they can overcome just about everything. Reading is a fundamental skill. You have to be able to absorb information, and reading it is the way we do that in our society. And you also have to have some math skills. You know, they don't have to be huge skills. You don't need to be able to necessarily to do advanced calculus, but you need math competency. You need fluency. Uh, and also probably in our world today, you need to have some sense of technology, how it all fits together, how it works, how to be able to survive. You know, I have a friend who retired from education, and he refuses to get a computer. Now just imagine how far behind he is. But he is he just doesn't believe that he needs to learn that. And probably the last thing a kid really needs, other than being able to read well, a little bit of math, a little bit of technology, is to be able again to think and apply and be critical in their development. It really hasn't changed since the very beginning in the one-room school. We have made it more difficult than it is.
Mm.
And it's about relationships. It's about connecting to your community, helping kids find values. But the core academic content is just teach them to read, teach them to do a little bit of math, teach them how to get along, teach them how to look at situations. It's just that simple. The issue is we have lost the simplicity and put in all these complex things that really don't mean much.